The sound of hammering filled the air, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo my heartbeat. Through the dust and sunlight streaming into the wide open space of our home, I watched as she inspected her dream kitchen's progress with a gleam of excitement in her eyes. The smell of fresh paint mixed with the lingering scent of sawdust, creating a heady fragrance that seemed to whisper promises of warmth and laughter. I moved beside her, handing her a paintbrush as she brushed away a loose strand of hair, the moment feeling almost sacred, a shared dream turning into reality. Mara had always wanted a kitchen that was the heart of the home, with gleaming cabinets and an island big enough to host Sunday brunches with her family and friends. I could picture it so clearly, the children running in and out, bouncing around the house, laughter breaking the silence of our quiet neighborhood. It was supposed to be ours. I swallowed hard, pushing down the nagging feeling that pulled at my gut. But things hadn't felt quite right lately. Maybe it was stress or the strain of renovations, but I had sensed something strange hovering in the corners like shadows. It had started with small things. Mara would return later than expected from her yoga classes and leave her phone face down on the table. A part of me dismissed the behavior as simple forgetfulness, but as the days turned into week after week, I began to wonder about those late nights. Her excuses had become increasingly rehearsed, void of the warmth that had once come so naturally when she spoke of her day. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts as I focused on our current task. My hands were already tired from lifting bags of cement and hauling lumber, but as I caught her watching me from the corner of her eye, I felt invigorated. I wanted to believe in us, in the dreams we had shared and the future we were tirelessly crafting together. The shiny new appliances waited to be installed, and I wanted nothing more than to see her laugh as I clumsily fumbled with them. It was only days later when a small slip caught me off guard, an unfamiliar receipt stuffed carelessly into her yoga mat bag as I put it away. A restaurant I didn't recognize, dated 2 weeks prior, reeked of betrayal in the quiet house. My heart dropped as I unfolded it, the bold lettering revealing a dinner for two. My breath quickened, a tightness curling in my chest like a fist. Did she think I wouldn't notice? Wouldn't care? I watched her from the entryway later that night, seated at the kitchen table, her phone glowing faintly in the dim light. The new paint shimmered cool against her skin. She giggled softly into the screen, and whatever she was seeing filled her eyes with an exhilaration that was glaringly absent when she looked at me. It twisted something deep within me, a bittersweet recognition that I was no longer part of her joy, that I scarcely existed in her world. The strange smells that lingered when she returned home, possibly from the restaurant, gnawed at me. She always smelled of jasmine, a perfume I bought her years ago. I missed that scent. Instead, it was replaced by the cloying aroma of something too sweet and intoxicating. Every whistle from the kettle would remind me of how we used to share warm cups of tea on lazy Sunday mornings. But now the kettle whistled into a suffocating silence, amplifying the distance between us. In the following days, unease morphed into suspicion. I began counting the hours she spent away. A routine I used to find charming now felt like a secret language she had created without me. Other receipts began piling up in the drawer, making the tremors beneath my ribs strengthen. Each piece of paper was a brick in a wall that felt impossible to breach. I couldn't reconcile what we had built with the crumbling trust I felt. One evening, while tearing through a stack of junk mail, I found a hairpin lodged beneath the pile. It wasn't mine. Its golden sheen clashed against everything I knew about us. It wasn't just the hairpin. The hint of another life smelling of perfumed secrets lingered in the air, tantalizing me, daring me to confront her. The clatter of hope meandered through my thoughts, twisting with violence. As I clutched the hairpin in my hand, my heart raced, and my stomach churned violently. I knew the truth now. All the evidence had crashed together in what felt like the loudest echo of realization. I could either confront her or make a choice that would change everything. A cold wave washed over me as I turned my back on the kitchen, the dream kitchen we had painted together, knowing full well it had all been a lie. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't engage in a battle over trust, nor would I accept that life. I felt the surge of resolution, sharp and unyielding. I'd pack my things, put up the for sale sign, and sell the house. I would leave this space she had sullied and reclaim my autonomy. I would build a new life with a fresh start, but without her. As I walked away, the hammering began to fade, leading somewhere beyond this betrayal and into a future I would carve for myself. I spent the next several days in a whirl of planning, piecing together the dream I thought was ours, but had now abandoned. It wasn't just about leaving. The departure was part of a bigger scheme. I had begun to plot a future that would not only close the door on our past but ensure that I reclaimed the power she had stolen from me, all while she reveled in her facade of innocence. That Friday, Mara arrived home earlier than usual, and the tension felt jagged in the air. The construction crew had left early that day, dust still swirling in their wake, remnants of our now defunct dream. She entered the house with her high-spirited laughter, but the sound grated on my ears like nails on a chalkboard. I had spent the afternoon gathering every shred of evidence I could find, receipts, text messages, and photos, and tucked them carefully into a folder, ready to lay it all before her. "Can we talk?" I asked, keeping my tone even, though my heart pounded viciously against my ribs. Her smile faded and her brows furrowed. "Sure, what's up?" I led her to the dining table, the very same table where we'd shared meals laden with warmth, joy, and anticipation of all that would come. As she settled into her chair, her gaze darted nervously around the room, not landing on me. It had infuriated me that she could act so nonchalant, that she could bathe in the glow of our home that was now tainted by her infidelities, lie so easily, and still remain beautiful in her deception. "Mara," I began, voice steady. "What's this?" I placed the folder in front of her, and the crisp sound of paper against wood sliced through the momentary silence between us. She looked down, expression shifting rapidly from confusion to dread. "What is this?" "Don't play games." "You know what it is?" I leaned forward, trembling slightly with anger. "I found these. I know you've been lying." Her eyes widened, and she fidgeted with her fingers. I can explain," but the murmur of panic in her voice betrayed her as she clutched the folder like a shield, protecting her from the undeniable confrontation that was upon her. "Explain what, exactly?" I shot back, frustration bubbling over like a pot on the verge of boiling. "How you chose to betray me while we brought this wretched thing to life." I spread my hands wide, gesturing around us. "While I poured my heart into this house." "David, please." "It was just," she stammered, but began faltering as I pressed forward. "Just what? A fling? An accident? Because I'm not just another renovation project you can throw aside. I'm a person, and I deserve better than being made a fool." The color drained from her cheeks, and she looked helplessly at the photos scattered over the table. "You have no idea how hard this has been." I felt suffocated, trapped. Her voice climbed, fueled by desperation as she deflected blame onto me. "Trapped? In the life you begged me to build? Don't you dare pin this on me," I exploded, the anger fueling a determined resolve. "You went behind my back. You chose him." "I didn't mean to." "No more excuses." My voice cracked, raw with emotion. "I should have trusted my instincts from the start. All those late nights, the change in your scent, like a stranger with every passing day. You didn't care enough to hide it." "I was trying to find myself," David. Her words wavered as if she was bravely grasping for sympathy. "This house stole your happiness. We let it take over our lives. Don't put any of that on me either. You made this choice." "I'm going to sell the house." The words hung in the air, and I savored the way they ripped through her facade. "I can't stay here. It's tainted by every moment you chose to pretend I didn't exist." Her jaw fell open, disbelief washing over her features. "You can't sell our home. We built this together." "No, Mara." I leaned in closer, steel in my voice. "You betrayed me in it. You think I can share the same space with you? Each corner will whisper your regrets. I will not be here to watch as you piece together this mockery of a family life with your secrets hanging like clothes on a line, exposed for everyone to see." The silence that followed was laden with the weight of our shared history, the moment stretching impossibly thin. I could see the unraveling in her eyes, the sorrow that wasn't just sorrow but regret for what had slipped through her fingers. "David, please don't do this," she whispered, panic praying through her voice. "We can fix this. We can go back to how we were." There was a pause, a heartbeat, a gasp, a realization that settled heavily between us. "We can't go back," I murmured, sensing the inevitable fracture deepening. "I want a divorce." The words shattered something inside her as her face crumbled, tears cascading down her cheeks. I felt something shift, almost pity, but it was quickly overshadowed by the embers of empowerment igniting in my chest. I had set my feet firmly on this path, and there would be no detours. The heartbreak was palpable, yet I felt stronger, like the moment after the storm washes away the debris. But then, upon catching her gaze again, a mixture of devastation and fury, something dark flickered to life within me. I wasn't finished with this. I would not just walk away and let her rebuild without consequence. As tears poured from her eyes, I reached into that dark space in my heart and pulled forth a resolve stronger than ever before. I could use the life she had shattered to shape my vengeance. I turned away as a newfound determination surged through me. There would come a time when she would not just mourn what was lost, but feel the ramifications of what she had stolen from me, from us. As I reached for my phone to call the realtor, the stakes climbed higher. This was more than just selling a house, it was a deeply personal battle. I wouldn't simply step away, I would retaliate, igniting a firestorm that would lead her to feel the same betrayal I felt, the weight of consequence heavier than ever. The echo of her cries faded into the distance as I began constructing my own plans, a slow burn of justice, stitched with threads of revenge, until I would be free of this house, and perhaps of her too. The foundation we had laid together would become the new ground on which I rebuilt my life. But far from peaceful, it would be marked by her reminder that dreams, like homes, could just as easily become ruin. The months since that fateful confrontation unfolded like an elaborate drama, each moment punctuated with the weight of the decisions I made and the actions I took. After the emotional upheaval of revealing the betrayal, the chaos from those early days morphed into a steadfast determination to reclaim my life. The for sale sign I planted in the front yard marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would distance me from the memories of shattered trust. The house sold quickly, an offer that exceeded my expectations, coming in barely days after I listed it. As I handed over the keys to the smiling new owners, I felt a surge of liberation wash over me. Inside, I pictured the kitchen we had painstakingly renovated together, the blueprints she dreamt about, and the perfect cabinets that gleamed beneath dusk's soft light. It was all gone now, like the laughter that once filled the air, replaced by silence and a palpable tension I could no longer tolerate. I turned my back on it all, both physically and emotionally, as I stepped into a waiting car with nothing but the sense of impending possibility ahead. The following weeks were a cacophony of change. I moved into a modest apartment, a blank slate that felt invigorating. The first night I flopped onto the couch, staring at the beige walls that begged for color, just like I needed it. I could finally breathe, uncluttered by memories that threatened to suffocate me. The weight lifted, inch by inch, until I reveled in the stillness. Alone, I found clarity, a chance to reshape my identity without the shadow of her betrayal lingering over me. At work, I channeled my energy into projects that thrived under my meticulous hands. I tackled tasks with fervor, discovering a creative outlet I had long neglected while focusing on the partnership that had become my burden. I helped create new culinary spaces tailored for other couples, each design whispering encouragement and open communication, a stark contrast to what I had once known. Watching others thrive in dream kitchens I built from scratch filled me with pride that overshadowed my past heartache. But the real turning point came when I received a call from Jake, my friend who had initially urged me to trust my instincts. He had been in touch with several mutual friends, and the aftermath of my decision to sell the house had rippled through our community. Reports of Lisa's financial struggles reached me like echoes, each one triggering a pang of bittersweet sorrow mixed with vindication. Whispers told how she had struggled to settle into a new lifestyle post-affair, her lifestyle, unmoored and unshackled from the foundation I had laid for her, suddenly faltered. Friends from our circle left her behind or offered halting words of support that felt shallow compared to the genuine warmth they had once shared at dinner tables. I didn't gloat over her circumstances. Instead, I felt a quiet strength bloom within me. It wasn't about seeing her suffer, it was about understanding what I had gained. I had freed myself from that vast, empty house, and I was finally becoming who I was meant to be, a happier version, unencumbered by the pretense of loyalty that had long since eroded. Months passed, and as the seasons shifted, the cold despair that had gripped my heart faded, replaced by hope and the excitement of new beginnings. It wasn't until winter that a peculiar message arrived, one that sprinkled nostalgia and curiosity upon the fragile layers of my freshly built life. "Can we talk at Reed?" It was from Lisa. The past week had been one of unexpected challenges for me, pushing my resolve to its limits, remnants of old feelings surfacing as I wrestled with the persistence of pain. Did I want to revisit that chapter? My gut said no, yet my heart wrestled with uncertainty. I owed it to myself to confront her, to truly understand the consequences she faced and how she had grown, if she had at all. We met at a coffee shop I'd once visited with her, a place filled with bittersweet memories that would now serve as the backdrop for closure. Her expression was an enigmatic blend of sincerity and remorse when she arrived, casting her eyes downward, wrapped in a heavy coat that did little to conceal her weary posture. I recognized the vulnerability, a stark contrast to the confident image she once exuded. "I didn't think you'd agree to meet," she began, her voice soft, almost hesitant. I didn't come for closure on us. I came for clarity on what you've lost. The words sounded harsher than I intended, but I braced for her response. A heavy silence settled. She glanced at the mug waiting in front of her, as if searching for the answers buried beneath the surface. I've had a rough time. I know I made a huge mistake. I let my desires cloud my judgment, and I lost you in the process while chasing illusory dreams. I tilted my head, studying her as she fought against the shame welling beneath her surface. And what have you learned from it? She inhaled deeply, the words escaping her lips on a breath of vulnerability. That it's not about the house or the lifestyle, it's about the people who fill those spaces. I thought I needed more excitement, more ambition, but I sacrificed everything I once held dear. You deserve so much better. My heart didn't soften immediately, it merely observed through the fog of earlier feelings. But there was a hint of sincerity in her gaze, and I felt an ember ignite, not the fire of revenge, but the warmth of understanding that sometimes accompanies human frailty. I've had to rebuild too, I replied, my voice steadier than before. But it's the lessons learned that have transformed me. I can no longer define myself by what we shared, but by who I am now without you. A moment passed, each simultaneous breath holding the weight of our respective realizations. I wish I could go back, she murmured, tears brimming in her eyes. Wishing doesn't change reality, Lisa, I said gently. What happened between us was a choice, a dangerous one that had consequences. This journey of recovery needs to focus on newfound paths instead of past regrets. She nodded, a steep surrender corresponding with the bittersweet tears falling down her cheeks. I felt a strange sense of closure blooming within me as I watched her shift, as if this realization marked a pivotal moment for her. As we ended our conversation, a stillness enveloped the horizon, and the cafe bustled gently around us, marking the dance of life moving forward. As we stood, our eyes locking for one final exchange, I saw the spark of understanding in her once familiar gaze, a reflection of the victory that now belonged to me. Take care, I said, stepping away, leaving behind echoes of a past that had held me captive for so long. The door swung open, and as the cool breeze brushed against my face, I stepped out into the street, each footfall echoing the resolve I had forged through heartache. I understood now that the kitchen would never truly be hers, not after the betrayal. The frame of our relationship had cracked under the weight of her choices, but in the shattering came my rebirth. Closing that chapter marked the beginning of a brighter future, one built on lessons learned and strength reclaimed through adversity. With every passing day, I found peace in the identity I was crafting, fostering healthy connections and understanding that the value of my life was never relegated to the walls of a home or the whispers of another's deceit. I carried only the sound of hammering in my heart, forging dreams anew, brick by brick, trusting in the beauty that lay ahead.